Greetings, life forms. My name is Michael. This is the next part of a multi-part series involving a Blender add-on that I've been putting together for 3D printing. I've already covered installation and what the Slic3r Selected button does in previous videos. So if you are new to this channel, go ahead and head back to the previous videos in this playlist if this is new material for you. Otherwise, we're going to be jumping into slicing with Slicer, which means opening up this panel, local slicer settings. In this case, we're going to be slicing with Slic3r. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, you can define the directory that the executable is actually found in if for some reason it is not accessible to Blender via the path variable for your system. You can also define what slicer is called if for some reason it's .exe instead of just its name. What is more important is the configuration file. Everyone's configuration file is going to be different and dependent on their printer. So I'm going to load in my configuration file there. You can also define a post-processing script to run after Slicer is done outputting G-code. And also define extra arguments, command line arguments, that take precedence over anything that you have in your configuration file. At this point, I'm just going to configure the output directory to something other than the default temp directory. Select it and accept it. And with just those two configurations, most systems should be ready to slice. So let's go ahead and get Suzanne back, scale the monkey back up, and just like before, triangulate. That way we kind of know what it's going to look like once Slicer is done generating tool paths for it. And the next configuration to check is preview G-code, and this will open up the G-code file as a text file within Blender for previewing. And then just hit the button, Slic3r Slice Selected. Suzanne will disappear again, and that'll notify you that Blender is indeed done with that object. And if you're slicing multiple objects, that is a bit more helpful than just slicing one. You'll note that we now have a new text file in Blender. And I'll draw your attention to way down at the bottom here. Let's say these two settings, top solid infill speed and top solid layers. Let's say that those were not going to work for Suzanne today. Now, I do have a script that converts underscores to dashes and then searches with slicer help using a bit of grepping, which just outputs this. You could do it by hand if you so chose. Don't have to use this script. But it is going to be available for your convenience. So, in the configurations, I'm setting the top solid infill speed to 25 instead of 50, like it would be in my configuration file, and the top solid layers to 7 instead of 5, or I guess that would be 25 instead of 50, and 7 instead of 5, excuse me. So, now with Suzanne selected, we'll hit Slic3r Slice Selected again, and Suzanne will disappear, notifying us that it is done, and we'll have to reopen the text file within the dropdown, because by default this add-on will blank it out before re-importing, and that's to keep this from filling up with .001 add-on infinite item if you reselect and slice the same object. But more important, you'll notice that our top solid infill and layers, speed and layers, have changed as directed. So that was how to slice with Slicer from Blender. I hope some of you found that helpful, and in future videos, I think that we're going to cover how to connect Blender to an Octoprint server.